December 2023. Kyiv, Ukraine. In the middle of the night, an ATM does something it has never been programmed to do. It wakes up and starts ejecting cash. Bills spill onto the sidewalk. No alarms. No explosions. No broken glass. A passerby stops, stunned, then grabs the money. Anyone would. Nothing is stopping them. The machine isn't damaged. The bank isn't closed. It's just giving money away. By sunrise, this isn't an isolated glitch. From New York to Barcelona, dozens of ATMs are completely empty. Inside the banks, panic sets in. Ledgers don't balance. Transaction logs look normal. Vaults are sealed. Security footage shows nothing being forced. And yet, when auditors finish counting, the number is undeniable. $1 billion is gone. Not stolen in a robbery. Not siphoned in a breach anyone can see. Simply removed. Investigators would later trace it back to something almost laughably small. Not a weapon. Not a team breaking doors. Just one email. 3 clicks. And a rented laptop. Which raises a terrifying question. How did a normal waiter turn a computer into the most effective bank robbery in history? And if it happened once, how safe is your money right now? By day, Maxim Yakubets lives a life that barely registers. He wipes tables at a small cafe in Ukraine, serves coffee, counts tips at the end of his shift. It's honest work, and it doesn't pay enough. Rent is always due. Savings don't exist. There's no safety net. By night, Yakubets becomes someone else entirely. Online, he goes by Aqua, an obscure name in obscure corners of the internet. No fame. No reputation. Just code. Every night after work, he opens a rented laptop and teaches himself how systems really work. Not email accounts. Not social media. Not credit cards. In 2013, banks are considered financial fortresses. The public imagines vaults, guards, guns, masks, and getaway cars. Breaking into one is supposed to be loud, violent, and rare. Yakubets is about to challenge that belief. No weapons. No accomplices yet. No risk on the street. Just lines of code and patience. But there's a problem. People who try to hack banks usually fail or disappear. So before Yakubets goes any further, one question hangs over everything. Is this ambition genius? Or a fast track to prison? Yakubets doesn't start with an original invention. He starts with a rumor. In underground forums, developers whisper about a mistake, a powerful banking Trojan whose creators lost control of its own source code. The malware is called Carburp. For most hackers, the leak is noise. The code is unstable, incomplete, dangerous to touch. For Yakubets, it's an opening. He downloads the fragments and begins experimenting in isolation. Not copying. Not deploying. Rebuilding. For weeks, sometimes entire nights, he studies the structure line by line. What worked? What failed? Where the original developers slipped up. Slowly, the code changes. What starts as a crude banking Trojan becomes something more disciplined, quieter, patient, designed not to crash systems but to live inside them. Eventually, Yakubets gives it a name. Carbanak. A deliberately bland label. No drama. No warning. Because naming malware is easy. The harder question is whether it can survive real banks, and whether the man writing it can survive using it. Before anything else happens, Yakubets faces the same doubt every ambitious criminal faces alone. Does this code actually work? Or will the first attempt end everything? Yakubets doesn't start with a major bank. That would be reckless. Instead, he tests Carbanak quietly, probing small local financial networks, places unlikely to trigger immediate scrutiny. Late at night, alone in his basement, green text scrolls across his screen. No dramatic countdowns. No visible resistance. The first breach takes seconds. No alarms sound. No systems lock up. Nothing pushes back. For a moment, Yakubets waits, expecting consequences. They don't come. The access holds. Carbonac doesn't just slip inside, it stays there, invisible, untouched. It's almost disappointing. If breaking into a bank is supposed to be difficult, this wasn't. And that realization creates a far more dangerous thought. If it's this easy, why hasn't anyone else done it? The answer isn't technical. It's psychological. Most people still believe banks are protected by walls, guards, and rules. Yakubets now knows something they don't. The system doesn't need to be attacked. It only needs to be understood. And with that understanding, the experiment stops being a test. It becomes a plan. One person can break in. But one person can't steal $1 billion. Yakubets understands that immediately. Carbonac works, but using it at scale requires trust, discipline, and silence. So he begins carefully assembling a team. Not flashy criminals. Not random recruits. People like him. Eastern European programmers frustrated with ordinary jobs. Talented engineers stuck doing work that never pays what it should. Experienced hackers pulled from shadowy forums, already fluent in staying invisible. Each addition is deliberate. Each role defined. Carbonac becomes the center of gravity, the one advantage that sets them apart. With it, they're no longer experimenting. They're planning. Yakubets, who once worried about rent and tips, is now coordinating something far larger than himself. What starts as a technical curiosity hardens into an operation. Investigators would later give it a name. The Great Bank Robbery of the Digital Age. At the time, no one inside the banks notices anything at all. And that's exactly how Yakubets wants it. The plan doesn't begin with servers or firewalls. It begins with an email. Yakubets and his crew design it to look ordinary, almost boring. A polite cover letter. A clean resume. The kind of job application banks receive every day. They send it to the weakest link in any financial institution. Employees. Late in 2013, one of those emails lands in the inbox of a branch manager at a European bank. She recognizes the position. It's real. She did advertise it. Nothing about the message feels dangerous. So she clicks. The document opens. The screen looks normal. Behind it, Carbonac installs itself silently. No alerts. No pop-ups. No indication anything has gone wrong. Over the next few days, more emails go out. Russia, Ukraine, Germany. Most are ignored. Some are filtered out. It doesn't matter. The operation only needs one mistake per bank. And when that single click happens, Carbonac doesn't rush. It settles in. The door to the bank's internal network is open, and no one inside knows it. Once Carbonac is inside, nothing happens. At least, nothing visible. The malware doesn't announce itself or start moving money. Instead, it watches. Carbonac records screens. Hijacks webcams. Captures keystrokes. For weeks, sometimes months, Yakubets and his crew observe silently. They see every password typed. Every system opened. Every routine task repeated day after day. From thousands of miles away, they're effectively standing behind bank employees, looking over their shoulders. They learn how cash transfer systems work. How large transactions are scheduled. How technicians load ATMs with fresh money. It's the digital equivalent of casing a vault, except the vault never knows it's being studied. Inside the bank, nothing feels wrong. No strange behavior. No system failures. Because Carbanak isn't breaking rules. It's learning them. And the longer the hackers watch, the clearer something becomes. They don't need to force their way in. With enough patience, they can become indistinguishable from the people who already belong there. Watching isn't enough. Eventually, Carbanak begins to move. Quietly, it hops from the initially infected computer to other machines inside the bank's network. Not randomly, selectively. First, systems used by employees who authorize wire transfers. Then, the machines that manage ATM networks. Then, the databases that track account balances. Each move looks normal. Logins happen at familiar times. Commands resemble routine tasks. If an IT team notices activity at 2 in the morning, it's dismissed as a scheduled update. Carbanak is designed to behave like an employee who never makes mistakes. And it works. For months, the hackers wait. No alerts. No questions. No investigations. Every screenshot, every recording sharpens their understanding of how the bank really functions. That's when Yakubets sees it. A pattern no one inside the system has questioned. Banks don't verify intent, they verify credentials. If the system believes the request is legitimate, it executes it. At 2:47 a.m., Moscow time, Yakubets types 3 words into his terminal. Begin the harvest. The banks don't notice the moment they lose control. But from that second on, the outcome is already decided. By early 2014, Carbanak isn't inside one bank. It's inside more than 100 banks and financial institutions across 30 countries. Yakubets and his crew now hold something more powerful than access. They hold trust. Every compromised system believes their commands are legitimate. The theft doesn't look like a robbery. At one bank, a clerk watches her cursor move on its own, initiating a large transfer she never approved. In another country, an accounting system records a $5 million expense no one can explain. Across multiple cities, ATMs activate at preset times. No card is inserted. Cash pours out. On the street, hired money mules walk up, collect the bills, and disappear into the night. Inside the banks, nothing triggers immediate panic. The systems report normal operations. The crew uses multiple methods at once. Some account balances are quietly inflated. A $1,000 balance becomes $10,000. The excess is transferred out moments later to offshore accounts. In other cases, they exploit the global backbone of banking itself, SWIFT. Using stolen credentials, they fire off rapid international transfers to shell companies and dummy accounts. By the time any anomaly is noticed, the money has already crossed enough borders to be unrecoverable. And if digital transfers fail, the ATMs provide a physical fallback. It's a multi-layered operation with no single point of failure. For the banks, the nightmare unfolds slowly. Ledgers stop adding up. Security footage shows machines ejecting cash as if possessed. No one understands how it's happening. But when the totals are finally calculated, the scale is undeniable. Nearly $1 billion has been taken. Quietly, cleanly, and without ever touching a vault. At first, the banks don't call the police. They call their IT teams. Something must be broken. A glitch. A reporting error. No one wants to say the word hacked. Executives replay security footage again and again. ATMs dispensing cash with no human interaction. Accounts changing without authorization. Nothing fits the models they understand. Some banks quietly absorb the losses. Others stay silent out of embarrassment. Public disclosure would mean admitting they never knew they were breached. But the pattern keeps spreading. As reports reach cybersecurity circles, a darker conclusion forms. This isn't a malfunction. It's an attack. In Kiev, bank officials finally contact Kaspersky Lab. That call changes everything. What they describe isn't random. It's deliberate, coordinated, and patient. International agencies move in quickly. Interpol, Europol, the FBI. A joint task force forms, tracing what little evidence exists. Investigators follow the trail through command and control servers scattered across the globe. Every connection, every timestamp, every fragment of code becomes a clue. Then comes the first real break. Analysts reviewing server logs notice something that shouldn't be there. A connection from an IP address that exposes real location data. A single misconfigured router. It's a small mistake. But it's enough to point toward Moscow. For the first time, the invisible bank robber leaves a shadow. The trail leads somewhere investigators can't follow. Moscow. A luxury condo. Evidence strong enough to name a suspect, but not strong enough to cross borders that won't open. Western agencies can map the crime. They can't reach the man behind it. Years pass. Then, in March 2018, a breakthrough appears. Spanish police raid an apartment in Alicante. 20 officers. 1 arrest. A Ukrainian man known as Dennis K. Europol announces him as the head of the Carbanak syndicate, the coder behind the malware. For a moment, it looks like the case might finally be closed. But in Moscow, Maxim Yakubets watches the news and smiles. Dennis K. was a technician. Talented. Replaceable. The real architect is still free. Yakubets and his remaining associates erase traces of the old operation. Hard drives destroyed. Servers abandoned. They go quiet, not gone. In December 2019, the United States acts anyway. Yakubets is charged in absentia. Sanctioned. A $5 million bounty is placed on his head, the largest ever offered for a cyber criminal. His response is public and unapologetic. From a mansion outside Moscow, he posts on social media from a hot tub. "Thanks for making me famous." Investigators soon understand why he's untouchable. Yakubets isn't hiding. He's protected. His lifestyle is open. Luxury cars, elite clubs, exotic pets. His wedding guest list reads like a roster of Russian intelligence. Former special forces. Cyber warfare officers. The deal is simple. Target foreign banks. Stay free at home. And the story doesn't end. January 2020. A Ukrainian businessman arrives in Moscow carrying banking codes worth $40 million. Hours later, the money is gone. The man is found drugged in his hotel. Security footage shows a familiar face, one of Yakubet's crew. The operation never stopped. Since Carbanak, investigators have documented at least 17 similar attacks. Different malware names. Same techniques. Same digital fingerprints. Same Moscow connections. Yakubets didn't just steal $1 billion. He built a model. March 2023. A cybersecurity conference in London. A presenter displays a live map of ongoing bank intrusions. Red dots bloom across the screen. "These are Carbanak-style attacks," he says. "Active. Right now." In the audience, a banking executive quietly texts his team. Emergency meeting. Now. October 2024. A private jet bound for Dubai makes an emergency landing in Turkey. A passenger matches Yakubet's description. Interpol mobilizes. Police board the plane. The seat is empty. The passport is fake. Someone warned him. As you watch this, Maxim Yakubets is likely still in Moscow. Still protected. Still active. Maybe writing the next version of Carbanak. Maybe training someone younger, hungrier, and just as invisible. The waiter who once worried about rent now runs an empire built on stolen billions. And that's the part that keeps banks awake at night. They know he's out there. They know he never stopped. and they know the system that failed once can fail again. Because somewhere right now, another waiter, another frustrated coder, another nobody, is opening a laptop and learning how the invisible hand really works.